Hey guys, Sensor here. It's been quite a while since I did a video. Um, I think it's been about a month or more actually. Probably a little bit more than that, but I've just been busy with school since like the end of January, and I've still been playing Pokemon, and I've just I've had other stuff that I've been doing, but I wanted to do this video, quick video this time. Not actually going to uh, this is not a part of my rank series, but I wanted to talk about Collinsville Regional. So, if you don't know, last weekend was the Collinsville Regional for North America in the VGC, and um, I was at it. I attended the regional, and I didn't do as well as I had hoped. But it was my first big tournament besides the once mid-season showdown that I did at the beginning of January. And but I So I did. There were 9 rounds of Swiss, and then there was Top Cut. I didn't make Top Cut, and I actually only played 8 of the 9 matches because I had to buy the second game, which gave me an automatic win. So in terms of actual matches I played, I only won 2 of them, and then I lost um, 6. So for a total of 8 matches played. However, um, at least a few of those matches, most of them actually were actually they went to game 3, and some of them were just pretty close. Plus, I think the team, which I'll go over in just a second, is pretty good. At least for the last season, it was using season 2 rules, not the new season that started in March. I think it's pretty good because I did notice that a couple of my games I did lose just straight 0-2, but I did look back on what I could have probably done. And again, with just first big tournament, not having a lot of experience doing best of 3 and just not being as experienced, I'm not too mad at what happened. I do wish I would have done better, but again, at least some of the games that I lost, um, I do know what I could have done better, and I could have won with either just you know better RNG or just not making mistakes. I do know a couple of them at least for sure. I just made a straight mistake and I just wasn't thinking at the time. Like one game I was playing against, there was a Cinderace and it was game 3. I knew it had high jump kick. I had Lapras out, and it just Dynamax had just ended. I knew high jump kick was coming out. Well, I wasn't thinking about it at the time, but since I saw it already, I knew it had high jump kick, and I should have protected. If I would have protected that, then I probably would have won the game. And I didn't protect my Lapras, and instead I just took the full hit and got knocked out. Um, so it's a couple things like that where I could have won. Um, Another thing I want to go over, or one another match that I had was I was really surprised. I didn't win the match, but I did win the round. My favorite thing, I'll always remember. I had a Gudra. I had my Gudra out. At that point in the game, my Lapras had already got knocked out. My Gudra, I swapped in for a hit, and it was down to like 40 HP, and all I had left was um, Corviknight and Grimmsnarl. And so and I didn't Dynamax yet. I could have Dynamaxed Corviknight, but like my Corviknight is decent, but it's not against the team that I was playing, which again I can't remember. It wouldn't have worked out that well. And it's like, well, I'm not gonna. I could Dynamax Grimmsnarl, but I only had the one real attack. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna Dynamax Gudra. He had mostly special attackers. I wasn't expecting it to go well. I was expecting to get knocked out turn 1, but my Gudra survived all 3 turns of his Dynamax, and I think maybe one turn afterwards. Once Dynamax was over, and I ended up winning the game. I mean, I ended up winning that particular game for it because of it. And it was just crazy because I had because of its high special defense and its assault vest. Um, I just was able to sweep with like 40 HP Gudra. So that was pretty fun. But yeah, let me just go over the team real quick. Um, It's Lightning Rod Raichu. I love Lightning Rod Raichu. This is one of my favorite Pokemon on the team, and it works really well with my other Pokemon. One thing I will say that I had a real problem with was Duraludon with um, a Grimmsnarl. That was the first match that I played, and I didn't realize how bad it was because I've played plenty of Grimmsnarls, I played plenty of Duraludons, but I before that I never actually played any leads that had Duraludon and Grimmsnarl, and it just messed me up because I couldn't draw the lightning away with Duraludon, which is I mean with Raichu, which is why I was able to like mess up, and I lost one of the games because I didn't think of that, and the Grimmsnarl, had fake tears and screens. It was rough. But Raichu has, typical set Nuzzle Brick Break Fake Out, but I have Surf instead of Volt Switch. Now Volt Switch is nice, and there's definitely times when Volt Switch would be better to safely get Raichu out, but Surf is really good on this team because of Lapras. There are times when I've saved my Lapras because Surf hits everything on the field, including your ally Pokemon. And with Lapras' Water Absorb, it won't take damage and is actually healed by water attacks. So I would use Surf, and Raichu being super fast, I usually go first, and I can heal up my Lapras, whether it's Dynamax or not. It's a pretty nice heal. Not only that, it's max. Let me go to the summary. It's max special attack and speed. So, um, yeah, max special attack and speed with speed nature. So it's usually going first, and its Surf does decent damage, and it's actually if Lightning Rod is activated, it's actually pretty strong. Not stab, but it's a pretty strong attack. So it lets me heal Lapras. I do some nice damage to both of the other Pokemon, unless of course it's Storm Drain, Gastrodon, or another Water Absorb. But I was careful not to use it on those. And yeah, I actually did a match earlier today where Lightning Rod got activated, and I was able to one-shot an Arcanine with the Surf, and um, took out a Mimikyu in 2 hits. So I really do like Surf on this, and it was mostly for Lapras, but again, it can break focus sashes because you're hitting both Pokemon. If I come in and Lapras is hurt, or if I can survive a turn and Lapras gets hurt later, Surf is really nice. Um, and I originally thought I would probably switch it out with Volt Switch if I wasn't using Lapras, but it's still not too terrible. Even Goodra, I actually used Goodra even at low health. I used Surf, but because of Goodra's Assault Vest, because of special defense, and because it's a dragon, Surf won't do that much damage to it. Yeah, and most of my other Pokemon, I don't necessarily want them to get hit by a Surf, but it won't be that devastating unless they're already at low health. But Volt Switch is another option because it lets me switch out and it's a stab, so it'll do decent damage. But yeah, overall great. Of course, Nuzzle, main reason to use Raichu, in my opinion. Um, with it also having Lightning Rod, because the Paralyze is great speed control. Uh, if you can, obviously if you can paralyze the Pokemon, and it's really fast, so I usually can get it off. And I also, even though I have Fake Out, I've done a lot of turns where I would start with Nuzzle, and then Brick Break, of course, to break the screens, which I think this Raichu would be even better in Season 3 because you're going to see more G-Max Laprases, so you're going to want to start breaking those screens a lot. Togekiss, I actually didn't bring Togekiss that many times in the game, and this is actually a little bit different than the one I was using. Well, it's the same Togekiss, but I actually was using Light Screen instead of Air Slash, and I did that last minute because I only run one screen on Grimmsnarl. Because of the moves that I'm using, I can only really afford one screen, which I'll go over later. But I use Reflect on Grimmsnarl. Reflect is mostly because one of Lapras's biggest things is weakness is rock in fighting, and these are like usually physical attacks. So the Reflect covers up that weakness. Even though Lapras is still weak to electric, most Pokemon except Duraludon, I can just have Raichu to draw in the electricity. And then same thing with Grass. I mean, you'll see a mix of Grass attacks, but if you're usually going to get hit by a special Grass, and I can actually use Goodra's Sap Sipper ability um, to kind of deal with that sometimes. But anyway, the extra light screen was I definitely thought it was going to be helpful. But what I found out is, even though my Togekiss, I'm using the more defensive Togekiss, little bit of speed, I believe, and then some, special attack. And I went modest actually instead of the other one, and a bunch of defense and some HP. But it still hits pretty hard. And the one I was using before was actually not modest. I can't remember honestly what the nature was, but it was I think it was a defense nature. It was defense or special defense nature with lower attack. I just can't remember which one. It was already hitting pretty hard because it's got the super luck ability to increase crit and then scope lens to increase crit even more. But I was usually using Heat Wave and Dazzling Gleam whenever I would use Togekiss. And so that's why I decided to actually take Air Slash out because I'm like, well, maybe I can get more benefit by using Light Screen if I'm using Heat Wave and Dazzling Gleam so much. And I actually didn't even use Follow Me that much. So because of the team, it also could just be me. Maybe if I use Follow Me more or use Gets more, I would have won. But um, because of using Raichu and Grimmsnarl so often, I wanted harder hitters, and Gudra and Lapras are my harder hitters on the team, which might be why I lost more of my games because unless Lapras' weakness policy procs, it's decently strong but not too strong. And Gudra, my Gudra is also a more bulky Gudra, so I don't have max special attack, but Gudra still can hit pretty hard. Um, but yeah, what I noticed though is when I did bring Togekiss, without a Babiri Berry, it's actually kind of hard to set up the light screen. It's because I don't have max speed, so it actually gets outsped a lot, like Duraludon and Excadrill. Pretty much any time Max Steel Spike is used, Togekiss get knocked out unless I Dynamax, and then at that point it's like, well, that was the whole purpose of using Togekiss Light Screen. I can't do that when I Dynamax. So yeah, um, I'm using it on my new team, like how it is now, but yeah, I don't know. I didn't make that change until like right before the tournament. I didn't get to test it out, so that was that. Gudra, one of my favorite Pokemon, has always been one of my favorite Pokemon since it came out in X and Y. This is the Sap Super Assault Vest. Gooey, you can make a argument for Gooey, but I like Sap Super more because it allows me, even though over the whole tournament I didn't take advantage of Sap Super at all. I didn't need to. There are not as many grass Pokemon, or at least people using grass moves. And even then, you have to switch Gudra into that slot. But I have used it in the past where I would switch Lapras out if I think a grass move was coming, and then Gudra got hit. I actually was expecting that in one of my matches, and then they used um, a dragon move instead. So that's what made Gudra get hurt pretty hard. But yeah, Sap Sipper means I don't get hit by grass attacks, and it raises attack. And I actually tried out attack Gudra, but overall, special attack Gudra I think is just better. I mean, you can have a Power Whip Gudra. I tried like I think it's called Breaking Swipe, which is a dragon move that hits both um, opponents and lowers their attack, but it just wasn't that great. It sounded a lot better than it was. But yeah, just typical coverage. And Thunderbolt. I use Fire Blast instead of Flamethrower. I know it's risky living life on the edge, but I like the extra power. And because my special attack is a little bit lower by not having max, Fire Blast is really good. And I've been lucky enough not to miss. And if I had missed, I didn't lose a game because of it. And then Sludge Bomb, Dragon Pulse for the stab, and not Draco Meteor because I want to keep Goodra in and not get that lower attack. But I'm definitely willing to try different things, but this is just great coverage, and especially because of max moves, I don't think I would change much of this other than maybe trying flamethrower out. If I was on a rain team, maybe I'd use thunder, and then of course if I just really need to get like a specific Pokemon out, and I don't care about Gudra special attack, Draco Meteor instead of Dragon Pulse. Um, and again, it's the more bulky version of it. It's kind of fairly evenly split. I think defense has the most EVs in it because that's its one weakness. It's got really high special defense, pretty high special attack, but its defense is really low, which is what actually stopped me from using it early on in this game. It's just its defense was so low. But and no special defense because with assault vest and its natural high special defense, you don't need it. It's crazy, especially if you Dynamax it. So I put the rest in the HP, and I actually got some speed in there, and that speed actually kind of helps me outspeed certain Pokemon. I can't think of them at the top of my head, but there were times when uh, I was faster when I normally wouldn't have been, and then of course with Nuzzle or Tailwind up, then yeah, it puts Goodra in a good position. But this is a really good Dynamax option as well because it's so bulky and it still hits really hard. And if I don't Dynamax Lapras, Goodra was usually the one Pretty much, yeah. It was Gudra or Lapras the entire time. Grimmsnarl, mostly well, I wouldn't say it's typical Grimmsnarl. I started to see a little bit more of these, but this was actually a max attack Grimmsnarl with Adamant and with like I think 12 points in speed. I think it outspeeds other Grimmsnarls that don't put speed in, and I think Clefable, something else like that, and then the rest in HP. So this one is a hybrid attack support, mostly support Grimmsnarl, but the Spirit Break hits hard because it's stab and it lowers special attack every time. You know, reflect obviously for the screen, but Berry Berry to survive those steel attacks I normally wouldn't. Fake Tears is a huge thing because again, Lapras and Gudra, while they do hit decently hard, they're still not like they're not like really strong sweepers. So the fake tears kind of makes up for that lower attack, especially if Lapras doesn't get weakness policy. Like a weakness policy Lapras is actually really strong, but if it doesn't get activated, then there's Pokemon that are surviving its attacks, but that's where fake tears comes into play. Of course, people are combating fake tears more. They're stopping Grimmsnarl earlier, or fake tears because Prankster will not work on any dark type. So Tyranitar still could give me issues. But overall, I really like the Grimmsnarl fake tears, and I used this on two teams that I was using. Uh, yeah, it's really good. And then of course fake out. And then I didn't actually Dynamax Grimmsnarl, I don't think, at any point in time in the tournament, but I have Dynamax Grimmsnarl that helped me actually win games before on ranked matches. Dynamax with the Max Starfall hits really hard, and it also can protect me from status effects because of Misty Terrain. And the Lapras, this was the like cornerstone of the team, the main attacker of the team. Weakness policy, max HP, max special attack, modest, water absorb. So it could take a water hit. I could, switch in somebody. Nobody's on the team is really weak to it, but there's still plenty of water attacks that I could switch into if needed, or just stop them from using it. And if they did, it would heal me up. So Hydro Pump. Now I originally had Hydro Pump, Psychic, Freeze Dry, and Protect, but I noticed like Psychic was a good idea. It lets me set up Psychic Terrain if needed, but then I also thought that kind of messes up if I have Grimmsnarl and Raichu and I need that priority. And also, it hits fighting Pokemon for super effective damage, which one of its weaknesses is that. But I noticed that I didn't use it as much and it wasn't as helpful. So I replaced that with Dragon Pulse. Dragon Pulse still hits Dragon Pulse hits pretty hard on a, even if you don't have stab. I was surprised how much damage I did, and not only that, since I Dynamax it so much, Wormwind is really great. And that was one thing that I noticed I was missing was Wormwind. Unless I Dynamax Gudra, I don't have Wormwind. So this just lets me, whether I Dynamax Gudra or Lapras, have access to that. And Wormwind is very good because it lowers the attack of both opponents. So yeah, I definitely like that change. Now, this particular Lapras that I'm using is actually the Gmax Lapras, but it's the same exact setup as my other Lapras. So, Gmax was not allowed during the tournament. I mean, Gmax Lapras wasn't allowed in the tournament, but yeah, I'm trying out a different version of this team using the Gmax Lapras. Um, but yeah, it Gmax Lapras will be even better because the freeze dry would then be resonance instead of hailstorm. Now there are times when hailstorm definitely helped, like fighting. It allowed me to like hit Pokemon at like Whimsicott, for instance, hit it with a max hailstorm, and I, the hail would kill it after at the end of the turn. So if I wasn't able to fake it out, or if I just wanted to deal with another threat, like I fought Whimsicott with Vanillux, which is another game that I lost if I would have just stuck with my original plan. I faked out the Vanillux and used Hailstorm on the Whimsicott to knock it out. Um, the second game, I didn't. I didn't fake out the Vanillux, and then of course set up a Roarveil. But anyway, there's times that definitely Hailstorm works, but I think overall, the resonance is definitely better. Uh, but yeah, that's Lapras. And then finally, Corviknight. My Corviknight went through many different iterations, but this is the one that I ended up with, and I really like it. Because of the new season with Incineroar and other stuff, I would probably Mirror Armor is always a great option, and it's usually the best option anyway. And with the new season, it's even better. I would say that you would almost always would want Mirror Armor, but I used Unnerve for a couple of reasons. One, it did allow me to sort of deal with Gmax Snorlax, which I didn't. You don't see that much anymore, honestly. But if you do get a nice setup, a Gmax Snorlax sets up, it's rough because of its berry. So Unnerve lets me make sure it won't use its berry. And there's so many Pokemon that use berries now that, healing berries and other types of berries. Unnerve definitely is good. It is definitely good ability. But I would just say overall for Corviknight, especially after the changes to the meta, Mirror Armor is still probably better. But I use Oka Berry. I did so many different things. This particular Corviknight, I used Orca Berry because I was getting one shot by fire attacks, and I wasn't able to like set up. And most of the time, I'm gonna get hit by a fire attack. And its other big weakness is electric. Again, Raichu takes care of that if I can have it on the field. This let me survive so much more. So I could survive a turn. They don't expect the Oka Berry. Even if they do, this increased Corviknight survivability so much. I was almost always able to get Tailwind up or Taunt if I needed to. Sometimes getting the Taunt up was more important than the Tailwind. But in a normal situation, I would probably Tailwind, survive. Now I'm most likely going to be faster unless they're really fast or have a choice score. And then I could Taunt. Taunt was really a really good choice. I had Roost at first, but I noticed that it just wasn't. And I had like leftovers too, and just like I'm not surviving these attacks to even use Roost. Plus, it's mostly I wanted a Tailwind option, and having a Steel Pokemon was very good because of my, Grimmsnarl took his Steel weakness, so I was able to switch in Corviknight fairly safely. Iron Head for the stab, and with Tailwind up, I might go first for flinch. And I decided for the last one to be Body Press instead of Brave Bird for a couple reasons. One, I wasn't using Brave Bird as much, and I didn't have any type of fighting, moves, and if it's got high defense anyway. So the body press did decent damage, and I put a defense nature on it, and it was actually it's super effective against like Tyranitar, um, Excadrill, again Snorlax if I am fighting those Gmax Snorlaxes, and just overall I like the body press. The change that I made was definitely great. Taunt is really good because even though it's not prankster taunt to stop um, Grimmsnarl and Whimsicott, it still will make it so they can't do more than one. And it also lets me taunt Grimmsnarl and other dark type Pokemon that you wouldn't normally be able to taunt with Prankster. So yeah, taunt was definitely helpful. It let me stop Trick Room. Really good. And the spread I use is a little bit different actually. It's max HP, and then I don't have the exact numbers, but it sort of split the rest of the stats up. I think special defense was the next highest stat, and it was like just split I think 100 and 100 or somewhere around that with attack and defense. So it makes it pretty bulky because of the high HP, the decent special defense. It's already got a natural good defense, so that mixed with the EVs and the defense nature allows it to be pretty bulky and some attack so that if when I am using like Iron Head, it'll still hit a little bit harder. So I really like this Corviknight. Again, I would just have Mirror Armor Corviknight. So I'd have to get a different Corviknight. I like the EV spread though, but yeah, with the current season, I would just use Mirror Armor probably like 100% of the time over Unnerve, unless you start seeing the berries to be a big problem, then Unnerve. But yeah, Mirror Armor because of the Incineroars that you'll be seeing is definitely going to be good. But yeah, that's the whole team. It's pretty good, honestly. Even though I only won 2 games, again, there's most of that was just inexperience and of course making mistakes. Like there were 2 games when I just know for sure I would have won if I didn't make mistakes. And they weren't even like I got unlucky or I they were things that happened in the previous games that I that I saw, that I knew about, but it just in the heat of the moment I just wasn't thinking. I didn't have that, experience of playing at big tournaments that I just, things that I knew, things that I would have done better if I would have just thought it out, messed up. So I would have at least been four. Was it four and? I was 2-6, so yeah, I would have been at least 4-4. Well, sorry about that. My mic just decided to turn off for some reason. But what I was gonna say is, well, okay, so I was 2-6. I was actually 3-6 because it's still 9 matches. I just didn't play one of the matches, so I'm just personally saying I was 2-6 because I didn't. It wasn't a match. I didn't play. It was a free win, so I don't count that. But the actual record stated 3-6. So my actual record would have been 5-4 had I not messed up those 2 games, because those games would have definitely won for sure. The first match I just lost. I could have made better uh I could have made better choices, but like with what happened, could have nothing really would have changed. Whereas the other ones where I had the information needed, I had everything that I needed, and I just messed up. I just folded at the end. And then a couple other ones were just RNG, but that's Pokemon, so I won't really say that. But I definitely could have been 5-4, which again isn't great. Because I think there were some people with only 2 losses that didn't even make top cut. There were a lot of people at there. There was 300 something people in Masters. I can't remember how much. Close to 400, I think. So, um, yeah. But because of my experience with the tournament and seeing where I went wrong, overall this team was solid. In the current season, Um, I don't know. I don't think it's bad. I think it's still good in the current season, but you definitely want to deal with Incineroar, because Incineroar, the good thing is most of my attackers are special attackers. I mean, the only people that actually are physical are Corviknight and Grimmsnarl, and they're more support. So, but yeah, um, pretty good team actually, and I look forward to more tournaments. I was a little bit disappointed on how it turned out, but I still want to play more. And with the more experience that I get, I'm definitely aiming to at least start getting top cuts in big tournaments like the regionals. Obviously, my overall goal will be to get to Worlds. I definitely won't be doing that this year because there's just not enough opportunities for me, and there's not a lot of local tournaments that I can go to currently. But when I start getting better, I'll actually start traveling to do these local tournaments and do more regionals. Because I didn't go to Dallas, I only went to Collinsville. I might go to the Fort Wayne regionals. It's the end of May, so school I believe will be out, but I don't know yet for sure. And I'm definitely gonna be using a different team, but I'm excited to continue growing. So thanks for watching this video. It was a lot of just kind of going over my experiences. I know there wasn't any battling or anything going on, but I do plan to start doing more videos, to do more, my VGC journey videos again, other things with Pokemon in general, and then if you're also interested in other stuff besides Pokemon, I do that sometimes as well. So as always, please, if you like the video, give a like and subscribe for future videos. And as always, thanks for watching.